everybody, welcome back to Reaper Pro Tips with me, your host and disembodied hands, Quindy, Justin, John, and Kiki. She's learning. Hi, long face. You look so long-faced in the camera. You have a long face. Good girl. Oh, good girl. Yeah, there's my good girl. Yeah. All right, Keeks. Good girl. Yeah, you did good. Yeah, good girl. All right. You can go and snooze again now. Good girl. Good girl, Kiki. Good girl. Good girl. Got your nose. Alrighty, we're back. Oof. Hi. How's everybody? Everybody's like, be like that, because tomorrow will be Friday. Yeah. Hello. Hello, green users. What was I? I said something. Oh, yeah. I was complaining yesterday, Julie, that David had thrown a model at me that he had, like, worked on partially and then, like, just didn't love anymore. And apparently he feels like I need to work on it until he likes it again. Then he's just going to steal it back. And I was like, that is not collaboration. And then I was like, wait, Bob and Julie do this all the time. So maybe it is collaboration. Okay, cool. You were there. I wasn't sure. Sometimes people are just lurking and I don't know if they hear it. Yeah, how's your clingy cat, Cornico? Clingy cat. It's Happy Thursday. It'll be a happier Friday. Happier Friday. Okay, we have a mouse. We have a moose. A moose. You know what this moose needs? He needs probably to have his hat glued on at this point. Otherwise, his eyes are going to bug me. But I really can't put highlights in them because they really wouldn't have highlights. Maybe on this side. But I won't be able to judge whether that looks right until I have all this set. So I think I am going to glue his head on. All right, yep. Yep, that's the I'll only eat if game. Animals are really good at that one. Dogs and cats both. She's like, wait, where did the tasty food go? It sounds like she's a real player and knows how to work it, so that doesn't surprise me that Diva would be like that. All right, let's get this hat on this mouse. Usually it's the cat in the hat. Not this time. And I may need to actually put a little bit on the ears here. Rely on some capillary action. I didn't realize, I forgot that he had indents up here. So I'm going to actually do this on the back. There's actually indents in the hat where the ears fit in. And the hat is just springy enough that it wants to not quite sit on those. So I'm going to hold this for a minute while we chat. Hello, Tyler. Hello, everybody. Yeah. So my email promotion launched today, and I looked and my book is back up in the top 100,000 again this morning. But what I think is actually, this is actually going to happen, is my Kindle Unlimited. Because I'm like, well, that's not that many sales. And then I was like, well, but wait, like if you can pay 99 cents for my book right now, or ebook, that is. Or you could just get it with Kindle Unlimited. So for many people, this is going to be the first time they're even aware of my book. And they probably, if they're subscribed to an email list for bargain books, they're probably also Kindle Unlimited people. So that would make sense that I wouldn't see necessarily many sales, but where I'll be able to judge whether this is successful is in Kindle Unlimited reads at the end of the month and maybe even into the next months. Because a lot of people just, including me, just download books for their Kindle Unlimited and they don't quite get around to them right away. I see. So I'm just holding this hat on to hopefully have it glue nicely. I'm going to continue. Matachine, it's all based on how can I easily reach all of the pieces. Like, it would have been a pain in the butt to paint this mouse's eyes with the hat attached. It also would have been a pain in the butt to do the green work if the hat was already attached. It was much easier to do the sculpting work with the hat in my hand. Is that good? That's good. All right, we're solid. We are solidly on. So because I was doing the sculpting work up here, let me get it in focus. I wanted to have the hat in my hand. But yeah, as far as attaching, I attach everything I can that won't make it awkward to paint. But for me, a lot would make it awkward to paint. Like, I like to just have full access to all the pieces of the mini. So more often than not, I leave the parts off. That's why Sophie's wings are not attached yet, for example, is because wings are a super pain to paint. And if you attach them, you should never attach them. Never attach them. Paint them first, then attach them. But that's the rule. So if any part of the model blocks any other part and would make it hard to paint, I don't attach it. Yeah, but that's fine. It's not unfortunate, Karuniko. I actually would make more money from a Kindle Unlimited read than from the current sale price. So, but I mean, people, okay, those of us who don't have Kindle Unlimited, because I spend most of the year not being a member of Kindle Unlimited, we know to look, right? We know to look. So somebody without Kindle Unlimited is going to look down and see 99 cents, click on it and go to it. And those, but anybody who's on an email list for bargain books is typically going to have a Kindle Unlimited because it means they're reading a lot and they want a low price. Usually that's what that means. So it's like, I think I'm probably just getting a lot of downloads, which I won't immediately see, but we'll see. Maybe I won't. Maybe it's not going to work that great. Or maybe a lot of people haven't checked their emails. So technically the last wave of emails just went out like half an hour ago. So we'll see. Like, maybe it won't work. Maybe this will just be an object lesson in email promotions don't work. Because I'll tell you, I'm actually subscribed to Bargain Booksy, which is the other one. I did Fussy Librarian and Bargain Booksy. And my book is number one. Like, it's on the top. It's the first book you see when you open that Bargain Booksy email. They gave me prime location, probably because my cover was really good. So yeah, so we'll see, right? We'll see. Like, I have no idea if this will work very well. And what I suspect, just from my own experience with these email lists, because I'm subscribed to BookBub, and what happens to me is that, like, a few BookBub emails will go by and I won't even open them. And then I'll be looking for a book and I'll go back and I'll actually look to see. So it could be weeks. It could be a week, easy. Or I may not open them, right? I may only open them when I'm looking for a book to read. So that's why these email lists are kind of like people's responses tend to be kind of dicey on it because it really depends. And it can be a while before you see results from it. So I'm just kind of looking. I'm kind of watching. And we'll see. And Amazon does no promotion on you just for running a deal. You have to do your own promotion. So this is purely a test. It's a test of whether this crap works for my book currently. And it was fairly inexpensive. So for me, just to get the data, it's worth it. You know, we'll grow audience slowly. Thanks, Quindy. I'm glad. I'm really glad. But I think a lot of people will enjoy it, right? And so the only thing about it is just getting it in front of them, right? Finding those people and getting it in front of them, and keeping on writing books because every new book gives more chance for new readers to discover you, right? So, and every launch that we have from now on is going to be better because we're getting more readers. Like, organically, we're just getting more people picking the book up. And if the people like it, they'll tell their friends about it who also read, and, you know, stuff like that. They'll post on Goodreads with a review, or they'll do whatever. Like, it's just a slow growth process. And the people you see, like The Martian, which was a self-published book before it was picked up by whoever has it now, HarperCollins or whoever. He had an audience, a big audience for his science writing before he started posting his novel stuff. So when you see those quote unquote overnight successes with the, you know, people with their first book, there's usually something behind the scenes that you aren't seeing. Like they have a big following, you know, in something else, and they're able to leverage that. Good, Dogfather, good. No, I just essentially looked, Tyler, to see what. No, I didn't. Do the May the 4th be with you thing. I just looked ahead to see. I wanted both young adult and fantasy lists, so I looked at what dates were open for both of those, and I just chose that. Dogfather, thank you for the resub. Prime sub, 38 months. Very cool. Very cool. All right, so we've got our thing. I will probably do a highlight, but we're doing our gold. We're putting green and reddish brown, I believe, on there. Green and brown. And I hadn't done the silver yet, and actually I didn't catch the silver on the belt buckle, or I have to decide if I'm doing silver or the gold there. It would be a good place to put the silver, though, because we've got silver on the gun barrel, and we've got silver on the sword, so putting it on the belt buckle is probably a good option. I think I am going to grab some brown. I should have browned out the belt when I browned the gun barrel. So I'm going to grab some brown. I suspect I used black and brown for that. Or I used walnut. Hard to tell. Hard to tell what I used, but anyway. But yeah, so this is just everything from now on is a grand adventure, and I knew, like, this is not, like, ideally you wait to promote your book until you have at least 3 books out. Like, that's the standard way you do it. But I kind of like to just experiment and play around, and so I was like, you know what, it's not that much money, and I'll see if I get anybody. And every new person that we find with this promotion is a potential person who signs up for the email list and then buys the next book right when it comes out and helps with our launch. So it's all an investment, right? And it just takes time. It just takes time. Unless you're a super fast writer, like some of those people who can put out a book a month. And usually they're writing much shorter books if they can do that. I'm not a short book writer. All my books are... Okay, that's not particularly true if I'm writing urban fantasy. My urban fantasy tends to run 75K to 80K. But when I'm writing epic fantasy, this stuff, the Bear Kings books, always expect over 100K. Period. Small Scottish Cat is always here to watch my brush. He's my littlest fan. Littlest, biggest fan. But yes. But yeah, so this is, I'm just interested. I'm very, very interested. I love, David pointed out to me the other night when I was talking about, I don't remember what we were talking about, but I was like totally nerding out over some data in an article that he linked to me. And he was like, in another life, you would have been a data analysis specialist, and you probably would have been a really good one. I'm like, oh, yeah, I guess that's a road not taken. But I do love it. I do love to nerd out over data. I love numbers. I love putting together, drawing conclusions from the numbers. I love trying things and seeing what happens. I love all that stuff. And right now my book is just an experiment. So, or it is also my book, and I love it, but it is, everything about this new career is totally an experiment. And it's super fun. So yeah, I mean, if nothing happens from this promotion, that tells me that at least with these companies, the promotion is not worth it. Which would be kind of sad, because I gotta say, dealing with Fussy Librarian has been a very, very good experience. Like, they sent out, notices. They're like, remember to check your reviews and tell us if there are more reviews so we can update our listing, stuff like that. So they've been very communicative and very responsive, and I wanted this to succeed just because I enjoy working with them, but if it doesn't, it doesn't. But yeah, I'll look at the end of today, or I've been looking at my rankings just because, but at the end of today, I will look at my sales dashboard and see. It should tell me downloads and sales. Yeah. Hey, Thormel. Current Eco, I have written a couple. My first novels, I would say, that I finished that are trunked, i.e. the first one was really bad and needs, like, if I decide to go back to that world, it's going to need a complete rewrite. But yeah, I love urban fantasy. I write it. The last NaNoWriMo I did before it was 2021, I think I did a new urban fantasy book that actually is pretty fun and might actually get published eventually. But I need to work on the magic system a little bit. But yeah, it's a Fae book. It's fun. It's a fun book. I wanted to write something just fun. When I want to write just something fun where I relax and I don't have to worry about, like, continuity in my big world, I write urban fantasy. And actually I have another urban fantasy I probably will write, not right now, but maybe in the future, which takes the Bear King's world and brings it into modern times and follows one of the characters from, like, the world that you will not meet, but that you will know from these stories. Yeah. So yeah, I have a couple of urban fantasy kind of worlds, I guess. I do love writing it. There's just a lot of people writing it, and I'm like, well, I write it for fun. I don't know if it's really a standout or unusual story. It's kind of fun. I like it. I kind of like it. So yeah, I expect it'll get out there eventually. It's just, I need to decide if it's just going to be a 2-book series or a 3-book series. Because I do like to write series. And I know that the first book is not the end book. If it's going to be just a 2-book series, I almost just want to sit down and write the second one and then edit them both and put them both out at once. But yeah, I can write. The urban fantasy just goes so quickly for me compared to Bear Kings. Bear Kings takes a lot longer to write. I think I wrote the rough draft of this last urban fantasy, and I think it took me 51 days. Like, it was, like, super quick for me. I know there are people who can write a novel in 14 days, but I'm not one of them. And it certainly wouldn't be a good novel if I did. Yep, 99. It's on promotion right now, Fistic. Yes. So thank you. Thank you for buying the book. I hope you enjoy it. Alrighty. So he's got a glove on this hand. The sword hand has a glove to protect it, and the other hand just has the shirt cuff, which is weird, but it is what it is. I'm going to get his boots in. I like to get the belt done if I'm going to do the buckle, because the reason I'm doing this is that when you try to paint in the belt and you've already got the buckle done, it's really easy to screw up, and then you have to repaint the buckle. And when you're working with metallics, you pretty much want to get your metallics done and be done. So that's why I'm taking the time here, just a little bit of time apart, and I'm putting the belt down before we tackle the buckle, since I forgot the buckle the other day. Oh, nice. Yeah, I read a lot when I'm traveling as well. Gets me through the plane flights and the airports. That's right, I did glue this guy in, but I glued him in real lightly so I could break him off if I wanted to do a nicer base. So we'll just block in the leather real quick here. But yeah, so yay book. Now that I'm looking at this, I'm like, well, the boots, I don't know if I want them brown. It depends. Like, I almost want them black for more contrast. I'm going to think about that one, because I'm going to make the coat dark blue. The shirt will be white, and the cuff will be white or cream, off-white, right? Dirty white. And I might make the hat blue as well with a red band. Part of me does not like the brown there, because the fur, of course, started with walnut brown, which is very close to black and brown. And I feel like those boots are not looking great in dark brown. I think I need black. Yes, nerd culture is everywhere. But no, if I had a sci-fi series, should have promoted that one on this day. But I don't. I'm unlikely. I had an idea for a sci-fi series, but I like it's very unlikely I'll write it. Sci-fi not really be in my groove. Like, I could do space opera, I guess. I read science fiction, some of it. But usually the science sci-fi that I read is space opera. It's far more about the characters and the worlds than about technology. I enjoy that more. All right, so I just mixed up some Quick Dragon Black here to pop his boots on. No, nobody does urban sci-fi. That would be, they have a word for that. There is a word for that kind of like feel, the gritty, small scale sci-fi. But I don't remember what the name of their genre is. It's a smaller genre. Or maybe it's a set of genres. I don't know. I lose track. There's so many genres now. Nobody does white boots because they're a terrible idea, Pendrake. They're a terrible idea, assuming the rest of your model isn't in white. If the rest of your model is dressed in white boots are just fine. But the problem with white boots is that they're terribly distracting. You know, this is pretty much the idea of black or dark brown boots, and the fact that I always go that way is really just a Frank Frazetta thing. It's totally color composition and attention, and it's drawing the viewer's attention to things that matter and de-emphasizing stuff that doesn't. So the reason you do a black or dark brown boot is that really the boots aren't important. Just like Frank Frazetta, if you look at his stuff, he always fades out and darkens the lower legs, sometimes almost the entire legs, on his figures in his paintings. And that's because that part's not important. And so he wants to draw your attention to the parts of the figure or thing that are important. Frazetta was really good at using like lighting and clusters of detail to do that. It's one of the things that made him stand out. Yeah, that's true. White boots are not going to stay white for long. That's another good point. Yes, because they're dressed all in white, Crowley. Like, as I said, if you're dressed entirely in white, then you can get away with white boots. So if you are painting a pinup cowgirl and she is dressed in white, she can have white boots. Or if you are painting a snazzy corporate executive, Texas corporate executive, you can paint him in a white suit with the white boots. All right, so there we go. So we got that. Now I can do that buckle. Oh, I actually don't. I use an LED lamp, Tarzan. So it's actually, it has variable brightness. The big thing for me hasn't necessarily to be like really intense light, but that you have even light on both sides of your working area. So right now I've got my big ring light up here kind of illuminating this side. And then I've got my smaller LED. It's more of an L-shaped lamp. And when I'm on the road, I can get away with the LED because it's a long light bar, so it gives you light from both sides. The important thing is to reduce shadows when you're painting. So, but yeah, so I prefer LED because it doesn't break. I can travel with it, folds up, throw it in the suitcase, lasts forever, Tarzan. So I don't like, I used to use daylight bulbs, and I just got sick of replacing them and of them constantly burning out and having problems with breakage, couldn't bring them with you when you traveled, all that kind of thing. So I went looking for an LED lamp, and I just ended up getting that. But yeah, the brightness of the light never really, you have to have a certain brightness, right? So that you can see clearly. But having really intense light actually isn't necessarily good because it's going to throw hard shadows. So it's, you want a balanced light that's more of a daylight. Usually some people like it a little bluer, some people don't. I don't like the blue cast light. So, I tend to use more of a middle daylight, balanced white light. Yeah, like I said, all LED at the moment. David still uses freaking incandescents. And I'm like, how could you even? Maybe that's why he likes strong directional lights, because he always has one on his work. But yeah, I always want to have an even light across the model, especially for video. Yeah, I mean, the other thing is that the LED lights really don't generate any heat. I just realized I missed a little part of this boot, so I'm blocking it in. Okay, now we'll get our metallic. All right, silver metallic, where are you? We were using tarnished steel. Yeah, I mean, most desk lamp work lights are gonna be plenty bright enough, especially LED. The one I use, hold on. Search. So the one I use is pretty much this one. They have a different brand than the one I have, but this is pretty much it, straight up. It's got a USB charging port on the side for your phone or other thing that you're working with. It is a long light bar. You can bend it forward, upward, downward, whatever. It has a weighted base. It folds up into a nice little package for travel. Let's see what its light intensity is, if it tells us that. Let's see here. It'll adjust light color. It'll adjust yada yada. It is not telling me. It's an 11 watt LED desk lamp. Oh, there we go. There's your thing. So it's a 530 lumens. And it's 90 CRI. Yeah, the base comes off too. It packs flat. Yep. I mean, the reptile lights might be too bright because they're meant to be UV emitting, if I recall, because reptiles actually need heat and light. So yeah, I don't know how it'll be as far as that, but it is, if you were looking for higher CRI, 90, and it'll have you can put it on a timer. I never do, at 530 lumen. And so you can adjust the dimness or brightness depending on what your eyes like. And of course it's LED, so it doesn't use much power. Ideally I use two of these, one on either side of my work area. I can get away with one if I need to. But yeah, color temperature is different because you can set it all different. You can set it to blue or you can set it to red. The one I like is the one in the middle. But yeah, and these are actually very inexpensive. $30. Yeah. I mean, I bought one for me at Reaper and Ed liked it so much he ordered a bunch for Paint Club. Yep. Yeah, these are what we use at ReaperCon. It's what we use at Paint Club at Reaper. It's been using them for years. And they're nice and inexpensive, and they last forever, and they don't break, and you can travel with them. I mean, what's not to love, really? And you can adjust your intensity, and you can adjust your color. So it's really, plus you can charge your phone. Yeah, see, the reptile UV lights are meant for a totally different purpose, and that makes a big difference. And they are meant to give your reptiles the sunshine they need, the UV they need. Whereas these lights are not meant to be that. These are purely desk light, hobby light kind of things. All right, I keep getting distracted by things. Yeah, it's like aquarium lights. They're meant to, they're a lot more powerful, and they're really not meant for this sort of thing at all. Plus, they're expensive, and you don't need something expensive. You need something durable that's going to last for a long time and give you the level of light that you want. All right, we're going to grab some tarnished steel. I'm going to thin it 4:1. Now I could just go, honestly, with our metallics, they're fluid. It's such a fluid base. Yeah, pretty much Big Chimpo. So yeah, use lights. There's a reason there are lights for different uses, and pay attention to that, essentially. So you can use our metallics straight off unthinned. I didn't do a undercoat on this, so I am going to just do that. Because they're still like, you can use them at full strength, but you will get streakiness if you don't do an undercoat on a big surface. I can get away with it on this little belt buckle, but if this was a big sword, I would end up not liking it very much. Yo, Roger. Let us let that set. I feel like I have I did some shading on this, but I want to touch it up a bit. Make that a little brighter. All right. Now, last time we used shading to bring down our gold more into a brass because we used green and brown to take it down. I believe we used russet brown and ancient oak, but any dark green will work. And it essentially has taken us very much into a brass look instead of a gold. Magnification acquired. There's my eyeball. I didn't need it until I turned 40. Then my warranty on my eyeballs expired. But yeah, David's got an optimizer he almost never uses because he's actually nearsighted and his eyeball warranty hasn't expired yet. But I've needed the reading glasses. The reading glasses actually were Marika's idea. She used to use them all the time. And so I just started using these, and they're 3-time magnification, so they're plenty good for me. All right. So for a sword, I'm going to use different colors. Usually I would use a blue and a brown, but this is a very kind of globby sword. Like it's obviously kind of got nicks and it's not been taken great care of. Yeah, reading glasses is the way to go in my opinion, as long as you don't have super bad eyesight. Although you can also just get, prescription bifocals or something, or prescription reading glasses, and that would work just fine if your eyesight is really wonky. But the reading glasses are just, they work. They work, and I never notice them. I've almost gone to bed with them before. I'm still on my face and not notice them. I'm going to grab some oxide brown. I could use the oxide red, but it is very, very red. So if I want to give a rusted appearance, a semi-rusted appearance to this, I don't want to go straight to this. I don't want to go straight to rust brown either, for the same reason in that usually rust will start as a brown and then it will build up, and where it thickens is where it starts to go red and orange. So you don't start out with that red and orange if you're looking for a rusty look. You start it with the reddish brown. Alrighty, so I want to grab sealer. Gonna plop some. Uh-oh, it's cloggy. So I do want to do a little bit of rusting down near the handle. I'm going to do a couple drops of sealer into this brown color, the oxide brown. I'm going to put a little bit of water in there. And I do want to put a drop of water around my metallic so that it doesn't dry in a solid plug around. You guys see what I did there? Had metallic, put 1 drop of water at the edge, and used my brush to spread it all around the edge. This will keep the metallic from totally drying crazily hard onto my palette. It'll keep it wet for longer. The center is still unthinned, so I can still paint out of it if I need to. It's a little trick if you're using a well palette with metallics, because the metallic base is very, very high acrylic, and it is going to be, it's going to dry very hard on your palette. So this is a reddish brown, so probably to neutralize it, I may need to go a little bit greenish blue. I was going to go blue anyway, so I'll grab my blue liner and see if that'll work. May need to put a little bit of green in there to teal it up, but we'll try that. I'll do the same with this. But yeah, the reading glasses I just find is really useful. Useful, easy to carry around again. I'm always looking for something I can take with me. We'll do that. 1 drop of water on that. See where that takes us. Might need 1 more drop. Yeah, that's really pretty dark. Ah! Okay, that went way, way crazy. It's the problem with this bottle, this water bottle. It's really wonky that way. I don't know what happened to it. But anyway, so there's our 2 colors. We're going to do a brown and blue, what I typically do. Our brown, though, is very orangey red. And our blue is, I'm going to probably put just a tiny bit of green in there. Doesn't matter what green I use. I happen to have Naga out, so I'm just going to put a tiny touch of Naga into it. I mean a tiny touch, like tiny touch on my brush. So making that a little bit teal will help neutralize the red a little more. So the nice thing about the book, like being at a total dead standstill right now, because I'm a brand new author and I haven't done any advertising on it, is that anything that comes through in the like today and the coming week is going to be from the promotion. I'll be able to easily see that. A lot of authors probably run these, but they don't have the capability to actually like see, right? They're like, they run them, but they also have other stuff going on, so they're not sure. Let me grab a little bit of my silver and kind of stipple this in a bit. My brown turned out to be a bit heavier than I thought. And that's because it's really high coverage pigment. So I'm just going to do the brown in a couple of spots. I'm going to do it around these little nicks. I'm just stippling it. Don't want to have too much on my brush. I'm going to build it up a little bit. See that little brown bit? Yeah, science, exactly. Which is why I wanted to actually run this now. I wanted to run it when I had 0 readers, or, I have readers, I have you guys, and the other awesome people who bought my book on launch, but I don't have anybody else. So any traffic I get, and my book has slipped way down in the rankings, so it's not getting any organic traffic. I just don't have any pull yet. So yeah, anything I get, I know will be from this promotion. So that's really nice because it actually lets me judge how well it's doing with the promotion. And I'll probably I'm going to try to get a BookBub one, which is the biggie, which everybody agrees actually does get you hundreds of views. in clicks. I'll try to do that one, but I'll do it right before we release the second book. So that I'll probably like put up a 1 week pre-order for book 2, and I'll run that book bub if I can time it right. Can't always choose your timing on those. All right, so we've got that nice rust laid out. Let's do the back, actually, since I'm totally not going to... Otherwise, I'll run ahead and I won't have it done. I'm using my final brush here and always have, Turgeon. There are a lot of urban legends out there about metallics. Personally, okay, and some of my friends have noticed metallic sparkles in their regular paint if they use the same rinse water. I can think of maybe one. It has never happened to me, ever. And I have never switched out my rinse water. I do not use another rinse water. If I did see a sparkle on my model, guess what? I'd grab a dab of regular paint and paint over it and it would disappear. There are some things in this industry and some things like that where it's like, if you're an inveterate, like, never change your rinse water kind of person, where your rinse water is going to be really, really goopy and you're going to have a ton of metallic in it, yes, then I would rinse it before you go back to regular paints. That's a no-brainer. Like, I would change your rinse water. But with how little paint I have here and how few sparkles are actually out there, and when you mix it with, when you're covering the surface with regular paint anyway, you're going to cover over that stuff. I think that people overthink a lot in this industry, in this hobby. Overthinking is rife. And I feel like for many people, the majority of people, that's overthinking. You're worrying about something that really, there's probably better things for you to worry about. Well, right, if it's alcohol-based, it's a different beast, though. And I use Taclons for any solvent-based paint, yeah, and it's not the metallic flake. It's important to say there, too, Babatuk. The reason you don't use a good sable with metallic paint if it's solvent-based is not because of the fact that it's a metallic. It's the fact that it's a solvent. The solvent is going to dry out your brush hairs and make them brittle. Doesn't matter if it's a metallic or some other solvent-based paint. So again, it's not that it's a metallic. It's entirely, at that point it's brush care. It's why I don't use my sables with my oil paints unless I'm doing really fine work where I need the sable. Though plenty of people do use sable brushes for oils, by the way. I mean, the brushes that we use are for watercolor and oil painting. That's how they're marketed. The Kolinsky sable. So will it slowly beat up your brushes? Yeah, I think it will. It's been my experience that it will cause greater wear and tear on brushes, but so I'm doing, you can see the little stippling that I brought in and more like up here. I'm giving some rusty buildup around here. I'm going to cover this over and then I might go back over it again to bring it up again. So mostly I'm concentrating on places where fluid might pool, near the edge, near the bottom, trying to make things a little bit more interesting. But yeah, in general, your mileage may vary, but I'm usually just using small amounts of paint. And when it's that small of an amount of paint, it's really not going to add that much stuff to my rinse water. And when it's such a small percentage, the chances of me getting a sparkle in my regular paint are pretty low, close to zero, to the point where I've never noticed one, ever. But, I'm sure it's happened to somebody, and that person will be like, don't do this, and you can listen to them if you want. It's okay. Just because I kind of feel like it's kind of a step too far doesn't mean that it's not true for everybody. I mean, some people might have real issues with it, and maybe it is like, the thing is, it's not going to be based on the paint unless it's a solvent. in general, because most paint lines use the same flakes, or close enough that it makes little difference. Yeah, Kroniko, I feel it. Cats love paint water. I'm sure if dogs could get up here, they'd love it too. So I'm gonna take my blue now and I'm gonna put it over the top, like all over, to darken down the surface. Which will enable me to come back and lighten up areas. We put the sealer in here so that we could go thin with this and not have any problems. I mean, aluminum is a different flake, but it's still really fine. I mean, it's rocks or aluminum for water-based paint. Those are your two options. Two different kinds of rocks and one and one metal. Those are your flakes for hobby paints. And I mean, I've used a super fine brush with aluminum before with Vallejo Air Color, so Vallejo Model Air. I feel like people tend to take this seriously, but I just really haven't ever had a problem with it. Yeah. So I'm unlikely to start, like, if I never have a problem with it, I'm unlikely to ever start observing the whole two separate paint waters, yada yada. So we've darkened this down. You can see how we've darkened down all of our metal. We've dingified it. I'm going to actually go over on the gun barrel here and dingify it a little bit. Dingify. And this just gives us a little bit of interesting color on our metallics. And it lets us suggest things like rust or corrosion on the brass bronze. With the green, we were able to push a gold color to more of a brass color. And it just looks more interesting in general. I'm putting a lot of rustiness around the little sight there. Yeah, right. If you don't empty them, then you're going to essentially have really globby paint. That's where I would say that then you're maybe running that risk, Shadow Raven. So there you go. I compulsively rinse my and change my rinse water after every painting session that I do. So I always start a paint session with fresh water. I'm very compulsive about it. I get annoyed if I can't. So one of my OCD moments. So yeah, I always enjoy starting a paint session with fresh water. So at the end of every session, I rinse out my thing and fill it up with fresh water. But yeah, so I mean, it's up to you. It's up to you what you want to do. All right, so I have some rust bits on this. I'm going to build up more around the sight on this side of the gun. I just want to get some visual interest in there. So this guy, he's been out in the back of Beyond, and he doesn't take great care of his weapons. Either because he doesn't have time, because he's always getting jumped by vampires and werewolves, or because they're so beat up already, he's just waiting for them to die so he can buy new ones. Haha. Probably not, unless you're using a solvent-based metallic. And if you're not, then you're fine. I mean, I'm sitting here using a sable with my metallics, so. The thing to remember with metallics, and maybe this is because there's always a basis with these myths, right? There's always a basis. It's always something it came from. So one of the things that may have contributed to this myth, Agent Marvel, is that, as I mentioned a little bit ago, the base for metallics, especially Reapers, is very watery and it's very, very hard. So essentially, if you're dipping a lot of your brush in there and you're getting a lot of paint into the ferrule, it could wreck your brush pretty fast because that super thin fluid base, plus the fact that it's got a lot of acrylic resin, so it's really, really hard and durable, that would wreck your brushes faster. But if you're really doing like I do and you're only dipping a little bit of the brush into the paint and you're not really getting any paint up here near the ferrule, you're probably just peachy. But yeah, do keep in mind that metallic paints tend to be mixed in a very fluid base that is very hard and durable, because that's the most clear and shiny of the resins. I mean, I never need a brush rinser. I just rinse my brush. If you need a brush rinser, then you're not rinsing your brush often enough. And you would get a lot more mileage just learning to rinse your brush as part of your process. Yeah, it could be a Thoromel. Yeah, Big Chimpo. See, and that's where that myth comes from. And when people say the flake is shredding the hairs of your brush, I want to pound them. I do. It's so not. It's not. People, it's not. This can't. It's nose. Nose. is not possible. Brain broke. Brain broke. Yeah, you do not need a yeah, solvent-based glitter paint. Uh-huh, yeah, that's death. Oh, I see. So it just saves you that step of going to the sink. It dumps it into a reservoir, so if you want to, like, dump your paint water onto something somewhere else, you can. Yeah, I don't know. The brush toilet. Honestly, so much work. Why would I do that? I've got a perfectly happy rinsey thing here. I just rinse my happy brush. At the end of like an hour, hour and a half, I go and dump it out and get fresh water. Like, considering that sitting is the new smoking, do you really want a device that keeps you from getting up, taking a break, stretching, and refilling your water? Yes. Yes, thank you, Quindy. Right. That I can see that. I can see where that item is totally targeted at watercolor painters because yeah, you cannot have any tint in your water. Like you have to have fresh water constantly. Otherwise it'll come through, right? So, yeah. So there we go. Now we've debunked another hobby option that is not really meant for our hobby. All right, so we're going to go and paint our blue over the gun barrel. Yes, Reaper water cups are perfectly functional. Dave and I were talking about that whole, like, sitting is the new smoking thing the other day. Because, of course, we like esports. And it's like these kids are coming up with things like collapsed lungs and blood clots, and it's like it's because you're sitting all day playing video games. Oh dear. Crowley. Now that sounds like a cool thing to say and funny and all, but if there are kids watching this stream, it's really not. Yeah, if you work in watercolor or gouache, it makes sense, right? Because you will suffer if you have even a tiny bit of the previous pigment, and if you start to switch to something that can't, like obviously a really clear yellow or something. Yeah. All right, so we've essentially colored this down so it's much more dark. That means when we come in with our highlights, we're going to be able to really pop those highlights a lot more. I do want to put blue over this. Hobby myths. Hobby myths debunked. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if I look over and it looks like noticeably gunky, then I'm gonna switch it out. Yeah, but compulsive is fine. In this case, compulsive works for you, Kodiak. It's like me compulsively rinsing my brush. It means I never have to clean my brushes. And that was a conscious choice a long time ago that I made. Is I just started rinsing my brush a lot because it seemed to me like I would get annoyed when the paint got a little tacky and it wouldn't come off the end of the brush. So I just learned at that point I just rinsed and reloaded. Plus, I think it also came from working with Vallejo model color, which was hideous for separation. So I was always having to re-stir my paint to get it back to the color I needed. And after that, I would always rinse my brush. And so I just got in this habit of constantly rinse and reload my brush. Oh God, don't even go for the deionized water. The only time you ever need filtered or whatever water distilled is if you live in a place with a lot of metal pipes that have a lot of heavy metals and minerals in them. That will affect some paint because it will change the pH of the paint. But it has to be really bad water, folks. Really bad. Like Manhattan Island, I knew a painter whose water was bad enough that he was like, okay, I buy, filtered water for my paint. I'm like, all right, that makes sense to me because your water is terrible. Yeah. I did a Mythbusters set for paint on my Patreon a long time ago. Paint Mythbusters. Mostly it was about pigment grind and color and all this misconception about more pigment giving you better coverage, and which is BS, and all this kind of thing. So if you're on my Patreon, you can go. I think there were $5 ones. Paint Mythbusters. I don't think you can search them under Mythbusters, though. I don't know if I put them under Myth or not. If you search for that word, you might come up with it. But, all right. So I'm going to grab my black here and just do a quick line around this buckle. It's a Mousling. I don't really mind doing black lining, even if it is more cartoony. It's a very cartoony model. So I decided to spurn David's offer of painting his half-done mini because I was far more interested in starting my own new mini because I've been sitting there working on Anubis for forever and I still have to finish his base, but I feel like I'm pretty safe at starting another model right now. I really want to work on a bust. Right, yeah, Sea Dabber. So maybe not even then. I'll respect people. Like if they want to use filtered water for their paint because they feel like their water is terrible, I'll respect that. That's at least there's some science behind that, right? Because if the pH of your water is different enough, some sensitive paints might react to it. But yeah, at least there's science there. Even if it's being overcautious, there's still a reason other than metal flake cutting your brush hairs. Seriously. All right, so we got all that. I need to throw my blue wash over this buckle. You can see how the rust color's coming up on it. Yeah, it makes sense if you are cleaning water quality instruments because you don't want contamination. You have a reason for that. There are scientific reasons to do things. But yeah, I get it. I just get frustrated at all the gimmicks and the gimmicks and the overcautious and the stuff that's not based at all on science, the urban legends. I mean, but they're in every hobby, right? It's not just our hobby. So I'm gonna take my blue liner mix now, and I'm gonna focus on the downward facing side of the blade. I'm essentially gonna do a quick layer to give it a little bit more shadow. See how that's working. Well, and it's compounded by the fact that people, when so many people are trying to get your clicks or your eyes, you know, if they find what they think is like a thing that they can expose or talk about that nobody else is talking about, they'll do it, right, to get your eyes or your clicks. And so, and then maybe, you know, and it happens a lot, that even with those of us who are like pretty knowledgeable, we'll actually buy into some of that stuff, but then we'll, you know, over time, we'll just figure out, no, that really isn't a thing, and we'll stop talking about it. I mean, that's respectable. That does happen, and it's not that people are trying to misinform you. They just were actually misinformed themselves. The misinformation won. Also, sometimes people will just listen to a respected source on something, and this is why I tell you guys always to question even me. You know, and do your own research, because, you know, sometimes we're as misinformed as anybody, and then we just repeat what we think to be true, and, you know, people buy it and it becomes a big thing. So the sculpt on this side of the blade is a lot dicier, so I'm having to it's a lot flatter. I'm having to come in and kind of almost paint plastic surgery the blade edge there to make it show up, because it really isn't sculpted. Yeah, Babatuk for sure. My Cory Doctorow book about choke point capitalism is talking about Ticketmaster now. I knew Ticketmaster was evil, but I had no idea how evil. This is a depressing book. Like, I want to get to the second half where he talks about like how to start reversing some of this crap, because it's so depressing. Like, I come off my evening walk, and usually I listen to self-helpy type of books, right? But every once in a while I'll just listen to a good nonfiction book. So I'm listening to this because I'm going to go to his reading tomorrow and ask him to sign it. And sign my copy, my physical copy. And I'm just like, this is such a depressing book. Get to the happy part. Oh, it is. Like, this whole book is about scary, scary stuff. All of the creative things. Like, all of the creative, like, enterprises are full of giant corporations sitting there stealing money from the people actually creating the content. Everything from radio to record labels to, like, you know, traditional publishing, which I knew about, to, oh God, he goes in at, like, pretty much every creative thing. There's a middleman sitting there. And some of them, and of course it's like, it's monopolies, and it's really hard to like break them up. And a lot of them, like, the fines they get are just not even like incidental. Yeah, exactly. And screenwriters are one of the only creative like orgs that you know, they actually have a union. Like, and there's so many rules in place now made by the corporations that you can't unionize or you can't work with them. Right? And so essentially they're totally anti-union, and they get away with it, you know, because you need to organize in order to fight it. Yeah, it's ugly. It's ugly. Yeah, I'm sure Twitch is listening to me. Whoever owns Twitch. I don't remember who owns Twitch. I know Google owns YouTube, but I don't remember who owns Twitch. Well, and it's very complicated, Dogfather. right? The problem is it's super complicated because, what are people's retirement accounts linked to? The stock market, right? So what are these big corporations feeding? Stock prices. So then you feel kind of like conflicted because you're like, I depend on my retirement account growing. And so big corporations need to do well, but at the same time they're evil, but conflicted. Like that. Yeah, it'll tank my book sales. Yeah, well, go for it, Amazon. They're already tanking. Oh, man. I mean, yeah. And it's just like, it's very difficult. I had to stop and think about it. And I guess, for me, I realized that it wasn't a conflict of interest because actually I only invest in index funds anyway. I only do Vanguard. So my retirement account is Vanguard only. And I'm not a stockholder who is like investing in Ticketmaster expecting to get returns. So yeah. Some dude in the Bible. I mean, everybody, the problem is in today's world, we need money. We need to like have a good retirement account if we want to have good quality of life. We have a lot of poverty, stuff like that. And so you can't hate money, but you can hate what people do with it and do in the name of it. Exactly. So it's a hard world out there, folks. It's a hard world. And that's why I'm happy that we have a good community that makes us, supports us and gives us pep talks. Yay, when we need pep talks. And, is concerned about each other and each other's like sick animals. And like, this is the only good thing about social media is when it actually connects people and lets you care about people. Like, that's it. Thanks, Chimpo. Moving to the mini painting author commune. From Miriko. Oh, yeah. Hold on, I didn't see it. Hold on. Let me write it down. I probably won't be able to find her anywhere on my own copy. Miriko went under a while ago. But you never know. Sometimes on eBay you can find stuff. Or sometimes other companies will buy the old IP of other companies. It's so true. Yeah, bye, green users. Yeah, it's funny. It's funny how social media can be a double-edged sword, right? My blue liner is totally falling apart at this point. I need to add a little bit more. It's definitely needs a little bit of a boost. But yeah, life is it's just complicated. It's always complicated. But I think with social media communities where you don't have a lot of turnover and you have a core of supportive people, I think that's where you see like the real good in social media, like this one. The Reaper Twitch community and like the Reaper Forumites and the Reaper Discord. There's like a good solid core, my own Discord as well. Many of you who are also Reaper peeps on the Reaper Discord. Where, you've got a good core of good individuals. And as time goes by, you just get, just like in real life, you get more and more invested. You know more and more about each other. And you care, right? So it's all good. Block in that gun barrel. A little bit more blue on the underside here. Got this shaded nicely. Need to do a bit more selective shading. Yeah, for sure, Quindy. Yeah, instead, humans have to learn to turn off the internet themselves. There are apps that will do it for you, though. A lot of writers groups will endorse such apps, but I don't know. I don't know. I think after my World of Warcraft binge, my decade of playing WoW to the exclusion of reality, where I just realized, like, something clicked in my head, and I just realized that I wanted tangible rewards for my spending time. Like, I realized I'd spent like a decade of my life doing World of Warcraft, and all I had was like a picture on a computer screen, and so it was easy for me. It was almost a logical progression for me from that point on to slowly start disassociating from social media. You know, Tyler, I think that it's being conscious about, like, I'll see as I get later in this book, and Dr. O talks more about like the potential solutions for all of these creative monopolies things. Um, I'm pretty sure that it's just going to be like human beings making conscious choices. Like for my audiobooks from here on, I'm probably going with Libro instead of Audible. You know, I'm going to try to make more conscious choices for how I get my content. And I think it's like more awareness of what's going on and making decisions like that. I think that's pretty much the way you shift things. Yeah. Yeah, Tyler. Well, my husband is currently caught up in that, so but he enjoys the challenge of the rating. Rating is a big puzzle for him. And you know what? He works his real job and he still has time to do creative stuff. And he's happy. So go do it, right? Like pretty much like computer games and painting are David's two hobbies, unlike me who has 60 zillion hobbies. And so even when he stops and he knows he's going to spend a bunch of time on Diablo, he knows he's going to spend a bunch of time on WoW, but he still finds time to paint and actually do like real creative things as well with his hands. So I think that's a good balance. It's not that you need to quit computer games. It's just that computer games can't be your only thing. Like do something useful. I guess I mean if that's not what you want, like if you just want to play computer games and that's what makes you happy, I mean, do it. But for me, it wasn't enough. Yeah, I just enjoy making things. I enjoy writing. I enjoy painting. I enjoy knitting now. Um, I like doing things that create something that is attractive, like like pretty, and satisfies my aesthetics. And if it's useful, that's also a big plus. And it's why I like cooking too. It's why cooking is another one of my hobbies. Right? It's very practical, and I can make super tasty things. All right, so we've got everything shaded down, I think, adequately at this point. You can see all the shading. It's taken down the silver, the steel, the brass. We're all looking pretty good. I think I could have done a little bit more shading up there on the top of the buckle. So I'm actually going to use my blue and red and do it. There we go. Yeah, exactly. And I've got a dog. Yes, I've got a dog and a husband and all these things. All right, there we go. So now we can do a little highlighting. And I'm going to actually start this by thinning down my metallic. The Bones Metallics are better for this as far as the thinning and highlighting. So I probably should reach for one. I've got Shining Mithril, so why don't I do a mix? Yeah. Yeah, and it's good, right? Like, and that's me. That's like me is cooking, mini painting, video games, and writing. And right now, writing is my top priority. I would say that mini painting has probably fallen down on my hobby list to be my fourth priority right now because I'm finishing up a model. I'm between models. I'm excited about my current knitting project. Computer games is the way I bond with David at the end of the day. So that always is kind of a Midland priority. And then the writing is first. I'd say knitting and painting are the ones that trade back and forth in my hobby life right now. All right, so 2 shining mithril dots there. I'm going to actually take a blob of my starting color and pop it in there. And I am going to throw drops of water in there. So I'm essentially making myself a darker version of the shining mithril just because I didn't want to dig in my bag for it. Let's try that. I'll thin it more if I need to. Okay, bye, Fistic. Yep, we'll see you. Tomorrow is Jolie the Scribe and finishing up basing on Burgermeister. Okay. Let's see if I can get some highlights on this. I'm going to try to hit my points on the belt buckle here. So let's get close. So I'm hitting these 2 top parts here. And I'm going to hit the middle of this as well. There isn't a lot of shading up here, so we're not going to see a lot of differentiation. I want to hit the tongue. A couple of highlights. Thank you, don't drink pink water. Yes. Quindy. Bilbo Baggins quote for the win. Oh, sorry. So I'm putting a little bit of a thin here. It's our last rainy day here, but we're still supposed to have like cooler weather and clouds for the next week. I'm very sad. I miss my 80 degrees. So we've brought those back up, and now we've got the details on the buckle standing out. And if I feel like I've lost a little bit of my shadows, I can always reintroduce them. And with the rust factor, I do want to reintroduce some of it because I've lost some of it. I'm getting a little too shiny looking here. So we want to bring back in some more dingy looking stuff. There, that's better. Okay, now I know I need to thin this a little bit more before I go to the sword, or it's going to be very bold. So we can do little bits of scratches. I can do edging with this. See that little edge that I picked up there? So I can take some of this on the side of my brush and I can hit edges where appropriate. I may not want to hit edges near a lot of rust, or I may just want to hit like the bottom edge, which might be scraped. So those 2 little dots help to bring those notches in the blade out. Yeah, cats love paint water. No idea on Reaper Live. Quindy might know. So I'm doing a little kind of like scratchy highlights here along the edge of the blade. See the scratches? Yeah. Yeah, I can't wait till the summer gets here. So David finally discovered that there's like a dog park right next to his building, like 2 months before he moves away from it. Like, and they move him to a different building. And I'm like, I've been asking you about this for ages because I wanted to bring Kiki over to Google to meet David for lunch. Because his current building is dog friendly, but the one that he's moving to is not. So those little scritchy marks help add to the appearance of a really beaten up blade. You see that? Ugh. Eek, Cornigo. Yeah. We had it's finally can't calm down a little bit yesterday. We had some serious wind before that though. So yeah, so I'm just putting little scritchy bits and I'm concentrating some light toward the edge here. And then I'm going to want to hit the outside edge as well. So get the paint on your brush, but not very much of it. And try to bring up that edge. I thought it was some sort of shimmy, but I wasn't sure where the oog came from. So now I've got that edge. So I want to bring up some light along where the blade angles. Can also bring that into the rusted part. And then I also want to get the edge of the blade with these little nicks and bring it up. Erratically wobbling, shoogling. Yeah, the Kiki's still in heat, so she'd be on yard arrest anyway. So doing a bunch of little nicks and scratches along the outer edge there. And the only reason these stand out is because we did the shading washes, which darkened down everything enough to make it possible for us to bring out those details. Is that a Scottish lexicon, Thormel, or a Things Cornico Says lexicon? So that looks pretty cool. No, it's not white. It's just a lighter metallic. We used tarnished steel, although it's very thin down now. Reaper tarnished steel 9206 for our base coat. We applied a rusty shade and then a blue-black shade to darken the metal down. And then we came back up on it with this mixture of the tarnished steel and Bones Shining Mithril, which is a silver white metallic. So it's not white. It's just a light metallic. The Shining Mithril is almost like pearl white. I wanted a near white metallic. We already had a white metallic, so Shining Mithril is, as you can see, a very, very pale gray. If you want the scratches to really show up like really like hard and sharp, then you use more of an aluminum flake paint, but you can do quite a bit with just the regular old paint, mica or silica based. And it shows up differently depending on where it is in the light, which is cool. If I decide that I've lost too much of my metallic, I can either put a gloss seal over it, or I can take my metal color, thin it down, and do a glaze. It's totally possible. Oop. And I just dropped things. Oh well, I'll have to fetch the thing. Oh, there it is. Dropping things is where I'm at lately. So you can glaze with metallics. It's usually it variable effectiveness depending on the flake load. You do definitely need to wick off any excess, as usual with glazing, because you got that flake on there as well. So you want to do it fast. And that will put a shiny over the top of everything. It makes your brush strokes less apparent when they're in the light, but they still show up when you're in the shadow. So that's what a metallic glaze will do over the top. But look at how much shinier now it is, because you don't have that. You only see the shadows that we painted in when the blade tilts now because of that glaze, because we put a shiny glaze over everything with a little bit of metallic flake. So we don't see that shadow now unless it's turned away from the light. If we hit full light, it's flat, right? So you can do that glaze, and that'll essentially make it less evident, make these scratches, take them down a notch, but you lose also a bit of your shading. So it depends on what effect. And if you're tilted away from the light, you can still see everything full strength, because that thin layer of metallic glaze only really shows up when you hit light. So choose the tools depending on how you want it to look. Obviously, if you're trying to take a photo of this model, doing that metallic glaze is going to make it a lot harder to see your details unless your lights are positioned appropriately. Yeah, so we got a lot more shine, a lot more metallic. Yeah. So yeah, you don't see glazing with metallics very often, but I think that they're pretty useful for big flat things like this where you've done a lot of under detailing and you want to kind of melt it together a little. So on the back here, oh, it is time to end. I'll have to do the back later. Big gouge on the back of that. But yeah, so we'll continue with that next time. Mousie's moving along. We'll also start bringing up a little bit of the gold here. We'll do some mixes, probably, with pearl white and our gold to bring up that color. Oh no! No Reaper Live. John has dropped the mic. He was waiting. He was waiting for you to tell everybody, Quindy, that you, as far as you knew, it was still on, and then he mic dropped. Boom. Actually. So tomorrow, here on Reaper, Tips of Pro, we are back to using our beautiful Hobgoblin Blue. on our lovely Jolie. It just occurred to me that Orchid Purple and Hobgoblin Blue look really good together. Yeah. Apparently you're supposed to sleep, Kaneko. So yeah, and then next time, and then also with that, we're going to do probably some green stuff work here to fill out the cobbles back here, and also some cobbles in these remember the little depressions that we made because we used the modeling paste? So those depressions are still nice and there so that we can create the hints of some of this cobble showing through. And then we'll start landscaping it. Yeah. So that's what we have up tomorrow, everyone. Oh, the yawns are attacking me today. Many yawn attacks. It's a cloudy day. Ugh, I need to get out and walk. Oh, okay. See you Monday, Kariniko. Okay, good. Drawing a character portrait on Josh's show. That's cool. That's really cool. I love character portraits. Super awesome. Yeah, thanks everybody. Thank you all for tuning in. And yeah, I will see you tomorrow. And maybe I'll have some news about how my book promotion went. All right. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.